Hello, my name is Portia Motti, and today we're going to be discussing the issue of spousal support. There are three main factors we're going to be discussing today, or three main issues we're going to be discussing today. The first is entitlement. Who is entitled to spousal support? The second issue we're going to be discussing today is the quantum or the amount of spousal support one can expect to receive or pay. And the final issue we'll be discussing today is the issue of the length of spousal support. Okay, so there are two ways to tackle the beast of spousal support. One is by means of a court order, and the other one is by means of an agreement. So let's talk about the agreement first. It's generally preferable to reach an agreement because it can be less acrimonious, and legal fees can be less because the parties can talk amongst themselves and with the assistance of counsel reach some sort of agreement. And really an agreement can be anything you want it to be with respect to spousal support. It can be for however long or for however amount that you think is fit. Now, sometimes agreements don't work, and it's important to know when to pull the plug with respect to reaching agreements. So at a certain stage, one realizes that we're not going to get the agreement we want, and that's in my client's best interest. I would tell my client at a certain stage, it ain't going to work. So at that stage, we have to go to court. And when one goes to court, there's various steps. So usually court is not a very quick process. Having said that, sometimes people try to agree for years and months at a time. And so even though it's slow, there's nothing really stopping people from trying to reach an agreement while you're going through the court action. So now we're going to talk about entitlement to spousal support. There are two grounds to entitlement to spousal support. First is needs, and the other one is compensatory-based spousal support. So who needs spousal support? Usually it's one party who's not going to work very much, who doesn't have a very high income. So for needs, one doesn't even need to have a long-term marriage, and one doesn't need to have a marriage where one party even made any sacrifices for the other. For example, the leading case is called Bracklow, and that was by the Supreme Court of Canada. In that case, the woman suffered from difficulties that precluded her from working. Now, the parties had a short-term marriage, but the husband was still on the hook to pay spousal support just because the woman could not re-enter the workforce. So another issue is compensatory-based spousal support, and that basically goes down to who made the most sacrifices in the marriage. So if one party took time off to raise the children, or one party didn't pursue their studies or their work opportunities as much as he or she would have wished because of the children, that's compensatory based. Another grounds for compensatory based support is, for example, if one party started off a business or went to university or college and the other party supported them during this endeavor or during their studies. Now we're going to discuss the issue of amount of spousal support one can expect to receive or one can expect to pay. Lawyers call this the quantum of support. Now, right now, we have the Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines, which are pretty helpful because they provide a range of support one can expect to pay or receive. Now, the Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines should be contrasted to the Child Support Guidelines. The Child Support Guidelines are binding. Courts and parties do not like to stray away from the Child Support Guidelines. Spousal Support Guidelines, we can stray away from them. Now, the Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines provide a range. There is the high range, the low range, and the mid-range. And where you fall on the range depends on really a lot of factors, such as age, length of marriage, roles played during the marriage, incomes, and so on and so forth. And now, I find that oftentimes people tend to get bogged down on the issue of who misbehaved the most in a marriage. And I'll have a lot of clients come to my office and they say, oh, my spouse committed adultery, my spouse was very cruel, what a horrible person. Now, I understand those are all very legitimate concerns, but they're not entirely all that relevant to the issue of spousal support. They don't really disentitle someone or entitle someone to spousal support, and they don't play that important a role in terms of the amount of spousal support one can expect to receive. The bottom line is judges know that when a marriage falls apart, no one is happy with their ex. So now we're going to talk about the length of spousal support, also referred to as the duration of spousal support. So a key factor in this is the length of the marriage. Another issue is children. If one has young children in the household, usually one ends up paying spousal support for a longer period of time, oftentimes till the youngest child at least, finishes high school. The only sure things in life are death and taxes. So now we're going to discuss taxes. Spousal support is taxable. This is another main difference between spousal support and child support, which is not taxable. Spousal support is taxable in the hands of the recipient and is a tax deduction in the hands of the payor if and only if it is paid on a periodic basis. Lump sum spousal support is not taxable, meaning the payor doesn't receive a tax break and the recipient doesn't have to pay taxes on it. Well, thank you for your time. My name is Portia Motti. If you have any other questions about spousal support or any other issues, feel free to check out our website.